Sorry about that. We forgot to delete the videos from last time, so the memory card ran out. But I'm back, and we were saying that we were going to dedicate this episode to our owner master's father, who passed away last week. And you have some inspiring words that she wrote we'd like to read, and then we have some articles to read that are inspirational and hopeful. Okay. Here's a speech that she had. So this is how you can explain what happens when an individual dies, because it's a difficult situation to encounter, and everybody ends up having to encounter it in their life. And it's difficult because we get so attached to our physical self that we forget that we have infinite consciousness, and that never dies. This physical self is a vehicle for the soul. So it's like the hand in my head. I'm the vehicle for the hand that's in the back of my head. So that's a great example right there. Okay, here we go. At times like these, it helps to remember that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. When we pass on to a higher dimension, we join our higher self-guide and become the higher self-guide of another spirit who chooses to have a human experience. If we think of the body as the vehicle of the spirit, then we can understand that like a car, it eventually dies. But remember, death is not the end, because we are infinite consciousness. One of the greatest gifts her father ever gave her was the gift of rhyming. I have written a poem on his behalf, giving him the inspiration and hope needed to rise above and begin his new chapter in higher consciousness. It's called Our Father's Afterlife. Altogether he cried when our dear father died. We didn't know how we'd move on. But just like on any average day, we arose to the light of the dawn. And as the days grew, somehow we did too, holding his memory near. His love lived on in all of our hearts, helping us face all our fears. And then the day came when a baby was born, and somehow we knew in our hearts that he was that baby's higher self-guide, and we had witnessed his afterlife start. That gives hope. Death is more of a graduation of coming up to the higher consciousness realms and helping from there, because there's a thing where you make a soul contract, and when you incarnate here you don't remember that, but there's a reason why people depart at the times that they do, because they're going up there to help with the higher consciousness that in a third dimensional thinking can't really understand until they get there. So it's kind of like it's really a graduation, really. And it's hard to understand it because it's not in a body, so we're used to things that are we're very visual creatures. Humans are very visual creatures, and used to an outside appearance, and they have a hard time imagining what it would be like not to have an outward appearance, but be a higher intelligence, higher being. But like a car, like I said, that's pretty much what it's like. So the shell, the outer shell, dies, but the inner human being, the inner being does not die. It lives. And I believe they go higher up to help humanity continue the great work in higher ways, and have synchronistic happenings happen, like at the funeral. A man was reading a speech, and he's talking about how her father always answered the call, and right when he said that, a phone rang, which was really synchronistic and interesting, and a smoke alarm was going off, so that was very interesting too, and give people hope and a little bit of humor. So that's always good. Okay, here is a good article we found from in5d.com by Dijan. It's called Who is This Higher Self? There is an aspect of ourselves that is invisible, yet very real. This dimension of ourselves that is such an integral part of each and every one of us has been called many names. The higher self, the sacred self, the inner self, all falling short of sufficiently describing what this dimension really is. Along with discovering your highest and most sacred self comes an inner knowledge that probably best describes this mysterious, invisible aspect of ourselves. Discovering your highest self is at the heart of living a spiritual life and is the key to higher consciousness. Since the beginning of time, humankind were left in awe at the magnificence of creation. The sun, the moon, the seasons, wind, fire, a flower, the birth of a child, and the list goes on. But as astonishing as these things may seem, it is the invisible world that has captured our attention even more than anything else. We arrive in this life not knowing why we are here and where we came from or where we are going. We live our daily lives and go about life in a very permanent manner, yet deep down inside we know that we are not here to stay. For many people, the realization of the spiritual dimension never really dawns upon their consciousness. It seems like our fascination with the physical world has created within us a bias for that which we can see, hear, touch, taste, and smell. The common belief is that what we can perceive is real, that the invisible is unreal. In spite of this, our scientific advances are revealing new truths about this invisible world to us all the time. With recent discoveries in the field of quantum physics, it is slowly dawning upon us that the invisible world is in fact the only thing that is real. One of the age-old spiritual truths is that we are not human beings having a spiritual experience, but we are spiritual beings having a human experience. What we really are is not the physical aspect of ourselves, but that non-physical part. That is the very essence of our nature as human beings. As you reflect back on your life, you can discover just how the you never really thought changed, even though your appearance, your personality, and almost every physical aspect of yourself changed. With a little introspection, you will soon discover that your body is nothing but a garage for your soul. So many people believe that spirituality is something that is to be found outside of themselves, and that God is someone they have to go and find in a building or on a mountain retreat or in some organization. The higher self, the invisible part of you, or the invisible part of yourself, is nothing but the presence of God within you. Deep within each and every one of us is that divine spark from where we came. This invisible dimension of ourselves is connected to a higher reality, to God. When you get in touch with it, you'll discover that there is a wisdom that is far greater than what exists in the realm of the physical and material world that's so dominated by rational thinking and analytical observation. When you reconnect with your higher self, you reconnect with your source, you reconnect with God. Higher consciousness is a conscious and awareness of your higher self, and it is a spiritual consciousness that transcends the limitations of the physical simply because it is not limited to the physical world of perceptions. This infinite world is available to you only when you start to live from your highest self. Your higher self is not just part of you, it is in fact you, the real you at least. Everything about you that you can see, touch, and feel is constantly changing, but your higher self never ages. It's always been in there looking out, quietly observing. You are a spiritual being. You simply have to quiet your mind and look deep within yourself to discover who you really are. In the New Testament, Yeshua underlined this great truth when he said, "Don't you know that ye are all gods?" More recently, an Indian saint was asked whether he was God. He replied by saying, "Yes, I am, and so are you. The only difference between me and you is that I know it and you don't." It's all about higher self and that we are infinite consciousness. Okay, here's a good one. I have a poem too that goes with this article. It's perfect. Very synchronistic. It's actually the latest poem that we've written, so always my own master has a little anxiety that she'll never come up with any more ideas, but she always does, somehow. And sometimes they just fall into her lap, so I don't know why she gets worried about that, but that's her. Okay. Here we go. There's another article from In5D called Moving into 5D Hidden in Plain Sight from the editor Greg Prescott of In5D.com. Imagine moving into your new light body while the ruling elite watch you ascend. Many times Hollywood hides messages in plain sight, but in this particular case, most people will see this as fantasy or science fiction. But there's a grain of truth hidden within the story. But is there a grain of truth hidden within the storyline? In an episode called Transfigurations, the following Star Trek clip shows a race of beings on the verge of transcending their current form into light bodies. But the ruling elite were desperately trying to keep them under subservience, control, and conformity. Look around you. The ruling elite are poisoning our water, air, and food supplies. The fluoridation of our water has led to the calcification of our pineal glands, which in past history were much larger than they are now. As many of you know, the pineal gland is called your third eye, and is the window to your soul and your true divine reason for being here. The following is a transcript from the video above. John, you could learn from these people, Sunad. They do not fear me. Sunad, they don't know how dangerous you are, and you and others like you. John, that is what you and the other leaders have maintained for generations, but it is not true. Captain, my species is on the verge of a wondrous evolutionary change, a transmutation beyond our physical being. I am the first of my kind to approach this metamorphosis. They tried to convince us it was a sickness, and we would never survive, that the pain and energy pulses would kill us. They claimed we were dangerous, to destroy anyone who exhibited the signs of transfiguration, which sounds a lot like people that are trying to trap people in religion and scaring them about that this is the only way there is, and this is what you have to believe, and all this garbage, and all the war and things that happen to people are horrible things like crucifixions and stuff. It's trying to stop humanity from having insight and inner change, change from within, and so they wouldn't be so stuck in materialistic things and supporting the monetary system and all that crap. Okay. We're protecting our society. John, by murdering us, you saw the mutations as a threat to your authority. You were terrified of something you couldn't understand. Some suspected that what was happening to them was not evil. Four of us decided to flee Salkin and let the metamorphosis take its course. John, there is nothing to fear. You can join me. All Zalconians can. Let me show you. John reaches out a hand to Sunad, who recoils. Sunad, don't touch me. John, as you wish, but others will listen, and now that you can no longer prevent me from telling them the truth, those who are willing will follow me. Imagine being able to tap into your true potential. Perhaps this is what the ruling elite fear the most, as they certainly do not want people thinking for themselves or thinking outside of the box, because that would limit their need for a government. You are truly more powerful than you can possibly imagine. Believe in yourself and have faith in humanity. The rest will fall into place. Okay. I'm going to finish off with this poem, which goes with that article very nicely. It's called Memory Restored. They thought that they had us trapped in fear until we broke free from their prison, and remembered that we came to Earth from space to bring down their empirical system. We are no longer prisoners, we are just Earth visitors, and we're developing our soul here on Earth, helping her rise in vibration as we witness the Lightbringer's birth. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next week.